Okay.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for this short workshop on video interviews. My name is Zed. I'm an employment broker for Sandwell Council. I've worked in the employment sector for over 15 years and I've helped many customers into moving closer to securing a paid job or an apprenticeship. I have also supported local businesses to recruit employees to their workforce and helped employees to sustain their paid job.
Hi everyone, my name is Seema Mayer and I also work alongside Kieran and Zed as an employment broker. I have been working in employment skills now for 11 years and my main aim is to support people of all backgrounds gain paid employment, whether it is pre-employment or post-employment. This means I support people as a job coach and provide in-work training or even advice and guidance in order to sustain work.
Hi there all, my name is Kieran Rajania. I am the Employment and Training Advisor. So I deliver employability training sessions and we cover topics such as confidence in the workplace, identifying your skill sets. We cover CVs preparations, interview preparation, and I also am responsible for running job clubs. I also offer in-work support to customers who do get paid employment, and I'm also responsible for carrying out job coaching duties as well.
Thank you for joining us everyone. So today in this short workshop, it's been designed to enable you to prepare for video interviews. So as we all know, with COVID-19, there's been many challenges for local businesses. HR departments are adapting recruitment practices in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has helped HR departments to innovate and rethink recruitment. This includes adopting video interviews rather than traditional face-to-face. Digital interview saves time and additional expenses to the employer and yourself, and employers are continuing to recruit whilst conforming to social distancing guidelines. So video interviews is now the way forward for most businesses, especially with what's happened with COVID-19. It's a safe option, it saves time, and employers can continue to recruit for any vacancies they have and for you to become part of their workforce. So what we're going to look at today is what preparation do you need to do for a video interview. There's 8 steps that we suggest you do before you go live for a video interview. So step 1, look if you had an input. I would suggest not to dress half dress or wear pajamas or sweatpants. And the reason for this is if you do move during a video interview, you want to make sure that you dress fully because they'll be watching. Also, you want to make sure that you're setting the right first impression with your potential employer. Step 2, I would suggest that you find a place in your home or nearby that's going to be quiet, it's going to have good internet connection, and inform family members not to disturb you. Somewhere where it's private, it's quiet, it's well lit, there's a decluttered background, and just ensure that everyone knows that you're in a video interview. The last thing you want is distractions or interruptions because that will affect your video interview. Step 3, we also suggest that you make sure your mic and your webcam is working and that you practice using the IT platform that you'll be using for this interview. So whether you're using Skype or Zoom or Teams or any other IT platforms, familiarize yourself with the application beforehand. This ensures that you've downloaded the application to your phone or to your computer properly. And after you've installed, make sure you test your audio, your camera, your internet connection, just to make sure everything is working. Step 4, we recommend you join early, 10 minutes prior to the interview. And the reason for this is if there is a malfunction, you want to make sure that you can resolve this before you go live for your video interview. You want to make sure everything's working, Because if it's not, it may cause you anxiety, and then that can impact on the entire interview. So by joining early, you can fix the issue and you can start the interview prepared and confident. Step 5, we always recommend have your CV close to you, any notes and a pen near you as well. The advantage of a video interview is you can use stickies as well. So if you want to make any notes to help you for the video interview, you can do that, and you can stick them near your camera. So then you can view them, and the employer will think that you're actually gazing at them whilst you're looking at your notes, and it gives the impression that you want to the interviewer. In terms of your CV, the reason why we say have it close to you, you might need to refer to it whilst you're in the video interview. And also, if the interviewer asks you anything or you want to take any notes, just have a pen and some paper near you as well. Step 6, remember, even though it's a video interview, the employer is observing your body language and your eye contact. So look directly into the camera when you're speaking to your interviewer. So mostly when we're working on our computer screens, we look down. So it's very important that you're actually looking at the camera when you're talking to your interviewer, and maintain that eye contact because it presents a confident persona around you as well. Step 7, prepare for the video interview questions. So like any other interview, you will want to prepare ahead of time for the questions your interviewer is going to ask. So we are going to be looking at some STAR techniques today and some suggested answers for 3 questions, but make sure that you also prepare some video interview questions as well. Step 8, at the end, thank the employer for their time. You want to leave a lasting impression with them, and you want them to remember you as well, especially when they're looking at the question and answer responses and they're analysing that information. So you want them to remember you. So always thank the employer for their time. Also, just want to add, we have got a question and answer function on Microsoft Teams. So please use that function throughout this workshop, and we will be addressing all the questions at the end. So now let's move on to looking at the STAR.
So the STAR technique, S stands for situation, T for task, A for action, and R for results. The STAR technique is a brilliant and simple way of answering tough behavioural interview questions. The main purpose of STAR technique method is to make sure that you give the interview panel solid evidence-based answers to the solution type interview questions that you're being asked. Now, the STAR technique is best used for interview questions that start off with, tell me a time when you, or it may start off with, explain a situation you were in when, or can you give me an example of when, or even describe a time when you. So 81% of the recruiters who are familiar with STAR techniques recommend you use STAR to prepare and plan your answers for your interview. Always make a list of the kind of questions that you may be asked based on skills and behaviours listed on your job description, and prepare some answers using the STAR technique. So the basic principles of STAR interview method are as follows. So you look for a situation. Focus on an event, experience or incident, either at work, home or out and about, that you had to deal with. Once you've done that, move on to task. Explain to the panel what you felt was the right thing to do in order to resolve the situation. Once you've explained that, moved on to action. Explain exactly what you did physically, mentally to carry out and achieve the task. Also, who was involved and what they did. And finally, always give a result. Finally, give the panel an outcome of your actions and let them know how successful it was, and most importantly, what you learned from this going forward.
So just following on from what Seema said with the STAR technique, when I've delivered this training in the past, I do notice quite a few customers tend to get the task and the action in a bit of a muddle. So for those of you who are like me, who have struggled with that in the past, another way of looking at it is you got the beginning, the middle and the end of your interview answer. So the beginning is obviously setting the situation, as Seema said, that you want to tell the where you were working, maybe what was your job title, what was the role, and what was the situation at hand. And then obviously what did you do in that situation is obviously the middle part of your answer. So telling the interviewer what you did, so what was the task and the action. And obviously the final part is the end of your answer. So what was the positive outcome at the end? So a few tips in terms of how to, make sure you master the STAR technique during interviews is, so when you're actually delivering an answer, sometimes we can fall into a trap of using the wrong language. So I have been on interview panels myself, and at times I have heard people say, so in that situation, I would do this or I would do that. We want to avoid that. What you need to be doing is actually explaining what actions you took in that given situation, rather than what you would do. It's really important that the interview panel hear the specific example you're providing and what you actually did in that example, as that's what you're being assessed on, not what you would have done. Okay. And another tip is, obviously when you're preparing for an interview, there is no sort of quick fixes with this. What you need to do is, if you're looking at a job spec and it's highlighting skills such as you need to have teamwork skills, maybe you need to have good effective communication, you need to be able to prioritize your workload, maybe you need to be able to multitask. So all of these different type of skills, what you need to be doing is looking at, let's say, okay, I need to think of an example where I've showed really good teamwork skills, and think of an example whether it's in a paid work situation or a voluntary or just a personal sort of life experience. It could be at school or college if you've just left education. Think of examples when you displayed good teamwork skills, maybe when you've had to meet a deadline, and write those examples down, as Seema said, in that STAR format. So set the situation, what was the task at hand, what steps did you take in terms of what actions you took to complete that task, and what was the end result of all of that as well. If you're able to write sort of examples down in that format for different skill sets and different situations you found yourself in, you can then revise those answers and use them sort of when it comes to the interview, and you can also use them for more interviews further down the line. So it's just about getting that prep work done. So it's not revising for an exam, really. And that's one way in which I've helped many people prepare for interviews. And, once people have got the technique and they've made it work for them, me, myself, Zed and Seema, we have seen people flourish at interviews, whereas before they weren't very confident at all. So get this STAR technique mastered, and, you will be able to be sort of have a lot more positive outcomes at interviews going forward. And just a final tip for you guys, just making sure that, when you are answering questions, try and use the language that interviewers want to hear. So, for example, when you're going to set a situation, you can just actually say the word situation. So I was in a situation at work where I needed to, or you can also use something like task I needed to complete was, or it could be the action I took involved doing X, Y, Z. So we're using the language that, that interviewers want to hear as well. And then also when you're mentioning the result or the final outcome, you can say, the result of my action was this. So yeah, I hope that's useful for you going forward. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put this STAR method into action now by actually answering sort of very common interview questions that we find at interviews. So the first question is describing a time when you delivered outstanding customer service. So for any of those of you who are interested in working as a customer service advisor, this is a suggested question that is asked in in a lot of different ways, using different sort of words and different sort of language, but it's pretty much the same question. And we're going to show you how to answer that in the STAR format. So as we've said, you want to set the situation. So what was your previous job role, or whether it was in a volunteering situation, you want to make it clear. So in here, we've got that in my previous job, I was managing the telephone lines, and one day you had to help a customer based on one line. So that's the situation. The task is that you spent time, the task was that you had to spend time patiently helping this customer, ensuring they choose the right products, and also providing the detailed product information for them to make that decision, and also talk them through the payment process and reassuring them along the way. So the action that this person took in this scenario is they asked various questions to make sure they know what product that customer wanted. Once we did this, we are then going to provide information about the different products available. And then once we've done this, we then explain in detail how we actually use the customer's payment details to process the payment. And also, we would emphasize that these details are totally secure. We then take the payment details, address for delivery, and then as a little nice bonus, which shows good customer service skills, you've also upgraded this customer to a free express delivery service as well. And this provides a further reassurance that they would receive those goods really quickly. So the end result of this example is the customer who was initially confused was able to go through the process successfully by the customer service advisor being patient and methodical. In the end, the customer was really happy with the service provided and would happily use the company again to buy more products. So that's an example of it. I think the main things we need to emphasize is you need sometimes the small little details you mention in the example goes a long way. So things like making sure that you explain the payment sort of process, it's all secure. So you're allaying their fears in that sense. And also things about upgrading them to a free express delivery service. Things like that, employers will like things like that as well, and they'll be able to picture you in that scenario. So try and provide as much detail as you possibly can, and that would help you score the higher marks at competency-based questions.
Okay, thanks, Kieran. So let's look at question 2. Describe a stressful situation and how you handled it. So just think about a stressful situation, whether it was when you was at school or when you was at college or from a previous job or when you was in a work placement or life experience, wherever it was, just think about a stressful situation. So what we're going to do now is think about that question in mind and think about what the interviewer is thinking with this question. So what kind of skills do they want you to present to answer this question? So they want to see if you're good at managing stress, if you've got good organisation skills, have you got good time management skills, do you understand, so if it's like a specific sector job role that you've gone for that's quite specialist, they want to see if you understand the guidelines for that sector. So for this example that we're going to be looking at today, it's about someone who's actually working in an accountancy firm. So they are working in an accountancy firm and they're processing high volumes of payroll. And this is for local businesses such as restaurants, care homes, construction and small businesses as well. So for this example or suggested answer, this employee is working with loads of different businesses and they're processing their payroll. So what's happened now is one of the employers has decided that they no longer want their payroll frequency to be monthly, they want it to be weekly. And this is for all 50 employees and it's at the start of their new tax year. So with the new tax year comes additional work as well as this work that's just come in. So this will mean that you potentially have to work around the clock to get everything completed. Okay, so what we're doing at this with the situation is we're detailing the background. We're giving the interviewer a picture of what that situation looks like, so they can actually feel like they're in that situation themselves. In terms of the task, so the task was to change the frequency for all employees manually and start issuing weekly pay slips as opposed to monthly. So you have to ensure that it was calculated correctly. So at that point, you're showing them that you've got good numeracy skills, and you did this in line with the government guidelines. So you understand that there's government guidelines when you're processing payroll, okay? And you're doing it within a time frame because you're making sure that employees are paid within the time frame, okay? So you're now informing the interviewer that you found, this was a stressful situation, but you did work additional hours to ensure that the work was completed within the time frame needed. So you're flexible in order to meet their business needs. So there's a lot of skills that are coming up from this example, okay? And that's what you want to do. You want to show the interviewer that you've got loads of skills. So let's now look at the action. So you've completed the change successfully for all 50 employees, and at the same time, you made sure that your workload wasn't affected. So you carried on doing all the other work that you needed to do. You remained calm, you remained focused, and you gathered all the information you needed to ensure that all employees were paid. Okay? And the result was that everybody was paid, and because you put the extra effort in the task, it was done within the time frame. It was actually done 3 hours before the deadline. So that shows your dedication, making sure the task is completed within the time frame, making sure that the business needs are met, and making sure that there was no hiccups and that you can handle stressful situations. So just to recap again, so the situation, put out the background and provide a context to what you're describing. In terms of the task, describing the challenges and expectations and what you needed to do and why. Action, elaborating your specific action. What did you do, how, and what tools did you use? And the result, explain the result, accomplishments, the achievements, and how it was beneficial for everyone. Remember, all STAR question responses are being, there's a calculation that's worked out in terms of how much you score for each question. So in order for you to get the job or the apprenticeship, you have to make sure that you score high. And to score high, you've got to put a lot of detail in your response and really get the interviewer to actually see that situation and be in that situation and explain everything you did to achieve the end result. So now Seema's going to look at question 3.
Okay, let's move on to the next question that you might come across. So it's here, tell me about a time when you had to work with a difficult person. So if you cannot think of a time at work and your mind goes blank, don't worry. Think of a time at home or out and about and base your answers on this situation using the STAR technique. Simply follow and focus on the 4 steps of STAR technique and you will answer the question effortlessly. Always remember, be professional, be calm. Remember you're working in a team and everyone's skills are different, so use each other's strengths and weaknesses. So here we have a situation where 2 work colleagues work in different styles. The issue here is that the work is not being handed in on time and unfinished. So the task was that you needed to resolve the situation simply and effectively. The action here is that you arranged a date to follow professionally, pinned down the person, arranged a time and place to discuss the issues to resolve the situation with suggestions. And finally, the result was that you both agreed that you would both work different styles. However, at the end of the day, you both had to work as a team and had to hand in the work in time to complete with the given deadlines. Hence, end result was successful and there were no conflict issues going any further. Once again, the more information that you put into these answers, the more higher you will score.
Okay, so now we've looked at 3 potential STAR questions that might come up in a STAR interview. So we've talked about the technique that you can use. So we're just going to summarize now on what you've learned today in today's workshop. So we've looked at 8 steps to prepare for a video interview. So 1 is looking presentable and professional. 2 is making sure that the location in your home or nearby is quiet, decluttered, well lit, and there's no distractions. 3, you've tested the equipment, mic, webcam, everything's in working order. 4, you've joined early to make sure there's no malfunctions and everything's in working order, preparing you for the video interview. 5, you've made sure you've got your CV, your notes, your pen close to you. 6, you're making sure that your body language and eye contact matters. 7, you've prepared for potential interview video questions that might be asked during the video interview. And 8, you're going to thank the employer for their time before you end the video interview. We've looked at the STAR technique. So the STAR, S for situation, T for task, A for action, R for result. Just making sure that you've got examples that you've prepared with from life experiences, from school, from college, from previous employment. So you've got some real life examples, and to prepare for that, making sure that you've written down the letters on the left hand side, and you've actually described situation, you've detailed the background, you've described the challenges and expectations, you've elaborated on your specific actions that you took and how you did that and what tools you used, and you explained the results. We've also gone through 3 questions and suggested answers on how you can respond, and you will be able to view these and they will be available following on from this video. And we've touched on the important tips to use for an interview. We just want to say thank you so much for joining us today on this workshop, and we do wish you all the best in obtaining your apprenticeship or job. We are also going to go now live for question and answer session. So all the questions and answers you presented throughout this workshop, we will be selecting some of those questions and we will be giving you responses to those today. Thank you.
Hi, hello everybody. So we've had some questions come through whilst that presentation was going on, so thank you very much for that. So if I can kick off with the first one, and I think this is one for you, Zed. So they've asked, how many people can be on the interview panel during a video interview? So
okay, hi everyone. Yeah, so there can be up to between 1 to 5 people on a video interview panel. So on most IT platforms, there's no restrictions on how many people can join a meeting. So it all depends on who the employer is. For example, if it was the local authority or the NHS, there is normally 3 people on a panel. If it's a small business, there could be 1 or 2 interviewers. So once you're all set up and live for the video interview, most likely the interview panel will introduce themselves to you, the same as if you were in a face-to-face interview. So be prepared for more than 1 person being on a panel for a video interview. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, fab. Thank you very much, Zed. So we've had another one come through, bit of a technical one. So do I have to video myself for a video interview? So over to Seema, if you can give us an answer to that.
Yes, the question to that is yes. Unfortunately, we're in the times of COVID now, and it looks like this is the way forward. We have to treat this as a real interview. So as you were going for a real interview, face-to-face one. But obviously, if you need support with this, don't worry, we can support you in this. So just contact us on the information that you see in front of you for the contact information. Email us and then we can support you through this. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, Hi, Nicola. Yeah, I can also sort of answer the technical side of that question. So I'll just put myself on the, yeah, thanks for that, Nicola. So yeah, with regard, if you do have old devices or appliances, there are a few options that you can consider really. So one suggestion would be, if your device doesn't have a webcam function, you can actually buy a separate web camera, and you can connect that to your device, and then that would make your device sort of compatible with attending virtual meetings such as Teams or Zoom and etc. Obviously that would incur a cost. So if that isn't possible, then the other solution, it isn't ideal, but we've all got smartphones. They've all got a camera and a microphone. So you can also use your smartphone to sort of attend virtual meetings as well. But, you know, I know there are some people, and we have had customers who've come to us, and some of them still don't have smartphones. But so for those people out there who don't have that available option either, it's sort of asking maybe friends or family if you can sort of borrow their device or go to their house and use their device if you do have a virtual interview coming up, and try and get support from someone who knows how to use technology as well. So they're the only options out there really, other than sort of buying a new device, which obviously not everyone can do at this moment in time.
Okay, cheers. That's great. Thanks very much, Kieran. We've had another question has come through, and they say, I have social anxiety and autism. What tips can you suggest that will help me to be better prepared for a video interview? So I think that's obviously someone that I think we can all identify with that. You know, lots of people get very nervous for interviews, and obviously some more so than other. So Zed, have you got any tips for that person?
Yeah, so I would suggest to ensure that you follow the 8 steps in preparing for a video interview that we've just covered in the workshop, and also complete a mock interview as well prior to the actual video interview. So this is going to help you get comfortable in front of the camera, as well as ensure that all the IT functions are working correctly for the interview. So just to give you an example, I recently actually had this situation where I supported a customer who has autism. So he wasn't familiar with Microsoft Teams, and he felt quite uncomfortable being in front of a camera because this was very new to him, and he can experience difficulties with adapting to change. So what I did was I arranged a mock interview with him, sent him the information on how to prepare for the video interview. He did have some technical issues during the mock interview, but we did loads of practice, and after completing the mock interview, he did comment that he felt more prepared and less anxious. And then on the day of the video interview, he found it much easier and wasn't as anxious. He also said he preferred the method of a video interview as opposed to a face-to-face interview, because he had more anxiety when he was traveling to new places, and when he arrived he felt quite drained and tired because of his autism as well. So that was kind of taken out of the video interview, and he liked being in his own space and having all his notes around him, so he was more prepared for the video interview. There are a range of resources available on our PowerPoint presentation, also that we've published online for managing anxiety and returning to work. And there is also a video titled Anxiety Awareness. So please have a look at those as well for some more information, for tips. And also we are a Sandwell Council Specialist Employment Service. So we assist residents of Sandwell who have a disability in preparing for work, all the way through to sustaining a paid job. So if you do have a disability and you would like support and assistance in your journey, then please contact us to start your journey. We do work with people of all disabilities, regardless of age.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Zed. We've had a couple of questions that come through that we can probably talk about together. So there's one, someone's asked, can I get some one-to-one help? And yes, of course you can. So I've just popped our contact details back on the screen there. So we have a wide team. So as Zed said, we do have specialist employment team for people with disabilities. We also have employment advisors. So we do help all sections of the community, basically, to find employment, apprenticeship, training. So we've got just the one means of contacting us. So obviously through the inquiries email address, you can drop us a line through there, and we will make sure that your query gets through to the most appropriate person. So you can just make note of that. Someone else has also said that this is the technique I do not seem to get right. What can I do? So I would say, again, contact us, book in for some practice. Kieran mentioned during his presentation that it's like an exam. You have to revise for it. So the more you practice doing these things, I think the more likely you are to kind of get successful in the end. Is that something that you found previously, Kieran?
Most definitely. It is essentially, I've had many customers who have come through the door, and at the beginning of their journey with us, they, from their point of view, they're absolutely hopeless at interviews at the beginning, and it's essentially due to a lack of practice and a lack of actually attending interviews as well. The more you actually, when we have customers and they start actually getting interviews, it's not a case where they ace the interview the first time round. It takes, a bit of practice. So if someone's been to interviews in, say, a space of 3 months, of been to 3 or 4 different interviews, it's normally at that time they start getting a lot better once they're able to practice their answers to the different questions they get. And as you said, Nicola, it is just practice. Practice literally makes perfect. So as long as you're diligent and you're disciplined and you're constantly revising what answers you have or examples you have from your past experience, I'm pretty sure the rest will follow suit and you will start becoming successful at interviews.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm just going to give it a few more seconds to see if there's any more questions that are coming through. Has any of you guys got anything that you want to answer? Actually, yeah, sorry, we've just had one come through, and they've asked what platforms are most in use. So Zed, do you want to?
Yeah. So at the moment, most employers are doing their interviews. Are doing their interviews on a number of platforms. So I've had somebody who's done a WhatsApp video interview on WhatsApp. There's Zoom. Zoom's quite popular as well for most employers. Microsoft Teams. There's people who are actually, for some employers, pre-recording their interview and sending that to the employer. Telephone. Yeah, so pretty much all the platforms that we've mentioned during our training session.
Fab.
But the goal is to be prepared.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so like I said, I'll leave our contact details there. You will be able to watch this video back, so it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. If not tonight, then by tomorrow morning at the latest. I realise it's a lot of information to take in all in one go, so please do feel free to dip back in and watch through this again at your leisure. So that's on our YouTube channel. Any questions, do get in touch with us on the inquiries email address. And otherwise, thank you very much from all of us here in the team. It's been really good and hope to see you again soon. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.